Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 413. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, we have an update on the compensation fund front. Now, last night during the live stream, there were a few questions leveled towards, what's going on with the compensation fund, what's the payout situation, and obviously it's all a pretty private matter. So besides court filings, we really don't know one way or the other what's going on with that compensation fund, meaning we don't know what's been paid out, who's been paid out, or any of the particulars or the fine details. What we do, though, have is a number now. And according to court filings, Epstein's estate has paid out $50 million to his survivors so far. Now, the estate's worth $634 million, or that's what it was appraised at. So, $50 million? Seems a bit off if you ask me. I'm thinking they're going to need to pump these payments out a little bit more. What's going to happen to all of this money that's left over if they don't pump out the dough to these survivors? Is it going to be seized by the government? Probably. That will be the likeliest course. I mean, I highly doubt that they let the estate keep whatever's left after proceedings. And with it only being $50 million so far, it makes me wonder if it's ever going to get up to that, $300-400 million range where it should be. So, again, it really comes down to what the survivors feel, right? If they feel like they're being compensated fairly, then that's all that matters in the long run. Because they're the ones that had to live through all of this. They're the ones that have to rebuild their lives and pick up the pieces and keep it moving. So you all know how I feel about that. But when it comes to the overall amount that's been doled out so far, now don't get me wrong, $50 million is a lot of money, right? It's a lot of dough we're talking about here. But I'd like to see that bumped up. I want to see this in the 100 millions, and I don't just mean 100 million. Like I said before, all kidding aside, I'd be completely fine with 500 million of this 634 million going to the survivors. And then that 134 million being used to pay taxes and, whatever administrative fees there is. In a perfect world, that's what would happen. But we all know that we don't live in a perfect world. So all we can do is try and stay vigilant and try and hold these people accountable for their behaviors. And that goes for people on both sides, right? The prosecution, the people in charge of the compensation fund, and then, of course, the estate. So let's jump into this article from MiamiHerald.com, and let's see what Kevin G. Hall, who is the author, has to say about the situation. Now, this is going to be a relatively short article. For the last month, we've been going about, most episodes have been running about 25 to 35 minutes. I was testing out this program with Spreaker, this mid-roll program, and I'm not a big fan of it, so we'll be going back to our usual format. Some episodes will be, 16, 17 minutes, 15 minutes, however long it needs to be to get the point across. So we're going to dive back in, and that's the format that you can expect moving forward. No more of those ridiculous mid-rolls. All right, so to the article. Like I said, the author is Kevin G. Hall. Nearly $50 million was paid out through the end of 2020 to Jeffrey Epstein survivors through a special compensation fund, according to a new filing Monday by the late disgraced financier pedophile's estate. So far, like we discussed leading into the show, it's been $50 million that's been paid out to the survivors. Now, that is, again, a decent amount of money, right? $50 million is certainly nothing to sneeze at. But when you look at the grand scheme and you know how much the estate is worth overall, and that is just only what it's worth on the books, then you know that this is just a small drop in the bucket. And my hope is that this accelerates at a quick rate here. And we see, look, some of these girls, some of these survivors who were abused by Epstein, they deserve multiple millions of dollars apiece. You can't fix what happened to them. There's no, psychologist good enough to get rid of all those repressed memories and all of the shattered dreams. So when I say I think all of these gals should be getting the Brinks truck backed up, that's what I mean. I truly believe that. And usually I'm pretty skeptical when people are asking for large amounts of money. Usually it sets off all kinds of alarms for me. And I'm like, all right, well, what's going on here? Who's trying to get rich in a get-rich-quick scheme? But this is so much deeper than that. This is obviously not people trying to get rich. We have decades of abuse here, patterns of abuse, hundreds of girls, literally, maybe even thousands. So there's no, oh, well, this is just a money grab type of deal, okay? This is people being compensated for the wrong that was done to them over an period of years in some cases. So when I hear 50 million's been paid out, all right, great, that's a great start, but let's see these payments get accelerated here. Let's get them bumped up a little bit, right? The report's fine print showed that through last December 31st, the estate paid out about $49.8 million to an unspecified number of survivors through the Epstein Survivors Compensation Fund, which began operating last June. So, since last June, $50 million has been paid out. So we're talking about, it's moving along, right? Money's being paid out. That's a positive, of course. It's good to see some progress being made here. But again, I would have thought that these payments would have been a little bit bigger, folks. When you think about the insane payouts we see people getting for lawsuits in America on a regular basis, you would think a lawsuit like this, well, the compensation would be at a premium, right? But it certainly looks like the Epstein estate is still calling the shots almost. I would think that the fund would really be trying to put the screws to the Epstein estate here and dole out the money in a more judicious manner, let us say. And obviously, each case has to be looked at on the merits of that case, right? How deep the abuse was, how long the abuse was for, and all of that stuff comes into play when we're talking about dollars at the end of it. So when the cases have been proven to be absolutely beyond the pale, I think that those payouts especially should be extra large. The estate also now values the Epstein 50% stake in a company that owns the American Yacht Harbor Marina in the U.S. Virgin Islands at $5.4 million. So that's the price on that marina, the estimate on what that marina is worth. The yacht harbor, in the marina. So that's another $5.4 million into the portfolio, but there's been a bunch that has come out of the portfolio as well. And the estate's assets have certainly dwindled since the time we first started discussing how much money Jeffrey Epstein had and what the estate was worth in the wake of his death. So again, as we move forward and this all starts to become more clear, I have a funny feeling we're going to see that he had even a lot more money than previously thought. when all of the trees are shaken and the doors are kicked in, because I have a hard time believing that a forensic accountant isn't digging through all of this right now with a fine-tooth comb. I find it very hard to believe. The fifth quarterly accounting was filed to a judge in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where Epstein's estate is being settled. It shows that by the end of the year, the estate was able to get valuations on his art collection, which was appraised at almost $339,000. Oh boy, I got questions about that. I got big questions about the price tag there, folks. $339,000, huh? But yet his best boy, Leon Black, has $1 billion art collection. And Epstein's isn't even $500,000? So you mean the paintings that you know about, right? What about the paintings that are stashed somewhere? What about the secret paintings that are God knows where that Epstein owns? Because you know there's a stash spot for those. $339,000 for his art collection. Yeah, right. And my last name is DuPont. Give me an absolute break right here. That's a joke that they would even try and pass that off as real. If I was the judge, I would have called them on the phone directly, the estate, and told them that they need to come more correct than that. $339,000 worth of art. That's like a basic Wall Street traders art collection, okay? Not Jeffrey Epstein's, please. The report also showed the estate assets totaling about $240.8 million at the end of 2020, after starting last year with almost $446 million on September 30th, 2020. The estate had $49 million in cash on hand at year's end. So we started out at $634 million. Then it went down to $446 million. Now it's down to $240.8 million. With only $50 million going out to the survivors? That doesn't jive with me, folks, and it doesn't add up, and it's starting to not pass the stink test, to be honest with you. You know, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt down here with this compensation fund, but boys and girls, we're down to $240.8 million, and only $50 million of that has been distributed to the survivors thus far? Going to need to bump that up. Let's hope that they were starting with the smaller payments first, and then the bigger monstrous payments are on their way. Let's hope that's the case. The estate reported new income above $11 million in the final 3 months of 2020 and $18.8 million in distributions from entities Epstein owned. You know, it's crazy to me that all of these companies are still whipping and working and bringing in money and bringing in finances and all of that other jazz, considering if it was a normal person, their finances would have been frozen already. So it's very odd to me that Epstein's business endeavors are continuing to just hammer along here. I mean, a new income above $11 million in the final 3 months. And they distributed $18.8 million. So they're down $7.8 million in the final 3 months. But they brought in that $11 million. It just doesn't jive with me. It's very weird that these companies are still active. And the fact that Indike and Khan are anywhere near them just sets off all kinds of alarm bells for me. These dudes shouldn't be within 5,000 feet of anything related to this case. In fact, both of them should be preparing for their own trials. Never mind worrying about being the executors of Epstein's estate. Epstein's Virgin Island company, Southern Trust Company Incorporated, which received generous tax breaks in exchange for promises to create a data mining business with lots of local hires, reported steep drops in value from $128.2 million in the 3 months ending last September 30th to about $61 million on December 31st. Oh, did they now? So where is the other, I don't know, $67 million? Where'd that $67 million go? You guys sure are paying a lot of lawn maintenance people. There sure are a lot of people coming in to dust the carpets. 67 million just gone, just disappeared. I mean, just drops in value for what reason? And why wasn't it sold off right away? Why are you holding on to it and waiting for it to drop in value? Once again, Indike and Khan shouldn't have anything to do with this. The report was an accounting sheet that offered little explanation for the decline in value of certain companies, although it did provide some hints to Epstein's tax burdens, including payments in France and an unspecified gift tax of $2.4 million that was paid out. Oh, an unspecified gift tax, is it? And $2.4 million in France? Why is this guy still paying taxes when he's dead? So why don't they just pay out whatever they owe to these people, get it straight, and then have their ledger, meaning the estate's ledger, completely rock solid and ready to go, so they can distribute these funds to the survivors, and the survivors can put a stamp on it, close this door, and move on and continue to try and pick up the pieces of their lives. That's all this is about, right? So let's get a move on. Let's get these payments pumped up a little bit more. And let's get this chapter and this part of the case put to bed. All parties agree that these girls deserve the compensation. Now, Finkelstein and the rest of them in charge of the fund, it's up to them to do the right thing here and make sure that they're holding Indike and Khan and the estate accountable for all of the disgusting deeds that they participated in. And so far, folks, with only $50 million being paid out, I have my doubts. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI @protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I will be back tomorrow morning, and we will pick up where we left off. Have a great night, everyone.